Amor Fati, the Stoic embrace of fate. Why fate matters more than you think. What if every setback, every heartbreak, and every failure in your life was not a detour, but the path itself? Imagine for a moment that the very things you've cursed, the events you've desperately wished had never happened, are the exact building blocks of your character. This is not wishful thinking. It's a radical, liberating philosophy rooted in the heart of Stoicism. The Stoics didn't just teach us how to cope, they taught us how to love what happens. Amor Fati, love of fate. In today's culture, we are taught to resist discomfort, to strive endlessly to control every aspect of our lives, and to label anything unpleasant as something to avoid, fix, or escape. We are sold the illusion that happiness lies just one perfect decision away, that the right job, the right partner, or the right amount of money will finally put life under our control. But life doesn't work that way. It never has. And deep down, we all know it. This is where Amor Fati enters, not as a passive resignation to life's hardships, as an active embrace of reality as it is. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and one of Stoicism's great minds, wrote in his Meditations, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." Amor Fati is that fire. It takes what life throws at us, the good, the bad, and the unbearable, and burns it into fuel for growth. Epictetus, once a slave, taught that it's not events themselves that harm us, but our judgments about them. The moment we stop resisting and start seeing life's events as necessary, even meaningful, we begin to understand what true freedom looks like. We no longer depend on external circumstances to feel whole. We no longer blame fate, we learn to love it. This philosophy doesn't mean we give up or stop striving. It means we act with full force, full clarity, and full commitment, while simultaneously letting go of attachment to the outcome. Seneca, the Stoic playwright and statesman, put it clearly: fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling. Amor Fati turns us into the willing. It makes us dance with the very forces that once terrified us. In a world full of noise, chaos, and endless uncertainty, Amor Fati offers a quiet but powerful revolution. It says, stop fighting the world and begin aligning with it. Stop wishing for things to be different and start loving them exactly as they are. Because when you love your fate, truly love it, nothing can shake you. Amor Fati defined, not just acceptance, but love. Amor Fati is one of the most misunderstood ideas in Stoic philosophy. It does not merely ask us to accept what happens to us, it invites us to love it. This distinction is crucial. Acceptance implies a kind of reluctant resignation. I don't like this, but I'll tolerate it. Amor Fati says something bolder. I welcome this. I embrace this as necessary, as right, as part of my journey. Epictetus laid the groundwork for this idea by teaching that it is not external events that harm us, but our interpretations of them. He wrote, "Seek not for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly." Amor Fati is the ultimate expression of this teaching. It means aligning your desires not with personal preference, but with reality itself. To love fate is to surrender the illusion of control, but it is not defeat. In fact, it is power. The power to transform suffering into meaning, chaos into order, resistance into serenity. Seneca, who knew firsthand the cruelty of exile, political intrigue, and personal tragedy, famously wrote, "A good character, when supported by strong convictions, can convert fate into a blessing. The man who loves his fate no longer asks, 'Why me?' but rather, 'What is this moment here to teach me?'" Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most famous Stoic emperor, practiced Amor Fati in the most intimate and philosophical way. His meditations are filled with reminders to himself that everything is nature: death, illness, betrayal, even pain. His repeated mantra was simple: what happens to me is part of me. He recognized that to resist what the universe delivers is to resist nature itself. To embrace it is to live in harmony with the logos, the rational order of the cosmos. Amor Fati is not a cold, emotionless detachment. It is a warm, courageous embrace of reality. It requires maturity, wisdom, and humility. It demands that we stop trying to rewrite the script of our lives and instead step fully into the role we've been given, performing it with grace and strength. It asks us to say yes to all of it: the heartbreak, the loss, the victory, the silence, the mess. This is the Stoic path, not to endure life, but to love it, every part of it, even and especially the parts we didn't choose. The Stoic roots of Amor Fati. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies a radical idea that we should not only accept everything that happens, but love it. This is the essence of Amor Fati. Though the phrase itself was popularized later by Nietzsche, its roots are unmistakably Stoic. The great Roman and Greek Stoics, Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, each embraced this mindset, laying the groundwork for a philosophy of complete alignment with nature and fate. Epictetus, born into slavery, taught that our power lies not in external circumstances, but in how we respond to them. He urged his students to make a clear distinction between what is within our control, our thoughts, choices, and attitudes, and what is not, our bodies, reputations, wealth, and even life itself. In his Enchiridion, he famously wrote, "Do not seek to have events happen as you want them to, but instead want them to happen as they do happen, and your life will go well." This principle is the beating heart of Amor Fati. It is a call to shift from resistance to alignment. Seneca, a wealthy statesman and advisor to Nero, wrote extensively about the unpredictability of fortune. For Seneca, suffering and loss were inevitable. What mattered was the inner response. In On Providence, he argued that hardship is not a punishment, but a gift from nature or the divine, a training ground for the soul. "A good person dyes events with his own color," he wrote, "and turns whatever happens to his own benefit." Amor Fati, through this lens, is not just about surviving difficulty, but transmuting it into moral and spiritual growth. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, wrestled daily with the chaos of leadership and mortality. His meditations are filled with reminders to himself to trust the universe's design. "Everything suits me that suits your designs, O universe," he writes. "Nothing is too early or too late if it is in due time for you." For Marcus, Amor Fati meant recognizing that every event is a thread in the fabric of universal reason, logos, and thus worthy of love. His discipline was not to change the world, but to master himself and welcome what fate delivered. Together, these Stoic thinkers laid the philosophical foundation for loving one's fate. Amor Fati is not resignation or fatalism. It is the art of finding purpose and strength in everything life offers, precisely because we trust the cosmos, the divine order, or nature itself. It teaches that peace and power come not from bending life to our will, but by bending ourselves toward life with wisdom, courage, and grace. Amor Fati as mental training. To the Stoics, Amor Fati was not a poetic phrase. It was a rigorous mental discipline. It trained the mind to view the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. At the heart of this training is the fundamental Stoic idea that we cannot control external events, but we can always control our responses. Amor Fati elevates this insight one step further. Instead of merely enduring what we cannot change, we learn to embrace it. Epictetus taught that the key to freedom lies in aligning our will with nature. Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happens the way it does. Then you will be happy. This is Amor Fati in action. It is not a call to surrender our agency, but rather to exercise it wisely by choosing acceptance over resistance, presence over anxiety. Training the mind in Amor Fati is akin to a daily workout. Just as the body grows stronger through resistance, the Stoic mind grows more resilient through adversity. When something undesirable happens, a flat tire, a canceled meeting, a betrayal, these are not mere setbacks. They are opportunities to say, "This too is for me." In this way, life itself becomes the curriculum and fate the teacher. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, speaks of a fire that transforms all it touches into fuel. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Amor Fati invites us to take this metaphor seriously. When faced with hardship, we don't ask, "Why did this happen to me?" but instead, "How can this shape me?" Mental training through this lens becomes a kind of philosophical alchemy, turning pain into strength, loss into clarity, and uncertainty into resolve. Seneca adds a moral edge to this mindset. He reminds us that those who rage against fate only make themselves more miserable. "A good character, when tested, shines all the brighter," he writes. To him, life's challenges are not obstacles to happiness, but proofs of virtue. To love fate is to stand firm when the storm comes, not because you enjoy suffering, but because you recognize that hardship is the only way to test and refine your soul. Thus, Amor Fati is not a passive resignation, but an active mastery of the inner life. It's the refusal to be a victim of fate by choosing to become its student. The training never ends. Each moment, pleasant or painful, is a chance to deepen our commitment to wisdom. Every setback becomes a sharpening stone for clarity, courage, and composure. In the end, Amor Fati is the highest form of mental discipline, not only to accept what happens, but to love it, knowing that through it you are becoming exactly who you were meant to be. Obstacles as fuel, turning pain into power. In the heart of Stoic philosophy lies a counterintuitive truth. Obstacles are not barriers, but opportunities. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This powerful idea reveals that challenges are not detours from our path, they are the path itself. For the Stoic, every hardship is raw material to shape virtue, resilience, and clarity. Within the mindset of Amor Fati, pain is not something to avoid or resent. It is something to embrace, even love, because it serves a higher purpose, the cultivation of a stronger, wiser self. Epictetus, once a slave who lived with a crippled leg, did not view his suffering as misfortune. Instead, he saw it as part of a greater design, a training ground for the soul. In his discourses, he reminds us that we should never ask for things to happen as we wish, but rather wish for things to happen exactly as they do. To truly embody Amor Fati is to see pain not as punishment, but as refinement. When life burns away your illusions and comforts, what remains is the core of who you truly are. Seneca offers a similar insight when he writes, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." Pain, loss, frustration, these are life's resistance training for the spirit. The Stoic does not pray for an easy life, but welcomes the friction that sharpens judgment, patience, and fortitude. This is the essence of turning pain into power, not resisting what is, but transforming it into a source of growth. In our daily lives, we often react to setbacks with anger, despair, or avoidance. But the Stoic response is different. It asks, "What can this moment teach me?" Even failure can be a teacher if approached with the right attitude. Through Amor Fati, we do not merely endure, we transform. The breakup, the illness, the job loss, the disappointment. They are not meaningless suffering, but invitations to deepen our understanding of ourselves and the world. The key is reinterpretation. Events have no inherent meaning. It is our judgment that labels them bad or unfair. The Stoic trains the mind to respond differently, to see the hidden gift within every misfortune. Over time, this practice becomes second nature. The more you love your fate, the less you fear it. And when fear dissolves, what remains is unshakable inner peace. In choosing to love your obstacles, you reclaim power from the world and return it to your own hands. Life is no longer happening to you, it's happening for you. This shift is the foundation of all Stoic strength. Obstacles are not curses, they are fuel, they are firewood for the soul, not escapism, but ultimate courage. Amor Fati is often misunderstood. To many, it sounds like a passive surrender to fate, a way of excusing inaction or justifying apathy in the face of adversity. But for the Stoics, nothing could be further from the truth. Amor Fati is not escapism. It is not a retreat from life's challenges. Rather, it is the ultimate expression of courage, the willingness to stand firmly in the fire of life, to look directly at suffering, injustice, loss, and uncertainty, and to declare, "Yes, this too is mine, and I will love it." This courage is not theatrical. It is quiet, internal, and disciplined. It is a daily practice of choosing to respond rather than react. To the Stoics, especially Epictetus, virtue lies in how we respond to what we cannot control. He writes, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do happen, and you will go on well." This is not a call to be passive. It is a call to be invincible. For if your peace depends on circumstances, then you are a slave to chance. But if your peace comes from choosing your response, then you are free, even amidst chaos. Seneca spoke of hardship as a forge in which the soul is tested. He wrote, "Fire tests gold, suffering tests brave men." If life offers pain, injustice, or failure, the Stoic does not flee, complain, or curse fate. Instead, they welcome the trial. They meet it with inner resolve, knowing that everything external is outside their control, but how they respond is fully theirs. That is why Amor Fati is a fearless position. It refuses to place blame or fall into victimhood. It says, "This happened, not to me, but for me." Courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. Amor Fati provides this mastery by transforming fear into purpose. When you love your fate, even the unwanted parts, you are no longer at war with reality. This frees your mind to focus on what you can do, how you can grow, and how you can serve. You no longer waste energy resisting the storm, you become the calm within it. Marcus Aurelius, writing during times of war and plague, put it simply, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." This is the Stoics' way to take misfortune and turn it into strength, to transform every event into fuel for virtue. Amor Fati is that fire. It is not weakness. It is not retreat. It is radical acceptance that becomes radical strength. In a world obsessed with control and comfort, to love fate as it is without needing to change it is revolutionary. Amor Fati asks you to live without conditions, to live with courage, not comfort. And in that choice lies the Stoics' unshakable freedom. Amor Fati and death. If there is one reality that humankind spends a lifetime avoiding, it is death. From the moment we become aware of our mortality, we engage in endless distractions, ambitions, and narratives to forget the inevitability of our end. Yet for the Stoics, death is not a curse. It is the ultimate teacher. And under the lens of Amor Fati, death is not merely accepted, but embraced. It is seen as a natural, integral part of life's fabric, no different from birth, growth, or loss. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, reminded himself daily, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This is not a morbid thought, but a call to awaken. To love one's fate is to love all of it, even the parts that scare us most, even death. Epictetus taught that fearing death is irrational, because what is natural cannot be evil. It is not death itself that harms us, it is our judgment about it. If we saw death clearly, we would see it as the final punctuation to the sentence of life, a closing that gives shape and meaning to the story we live. To practice Amor Fati is to make peace with this final line, to even admire its elegance. In modern life, we are trained to resist aging, to conceal wrinkles, to speak about death in whispers. But the Stoic laughs at this resistance. He walks into each day knowing it may be his last, and because of that, he lives more fully. Every sunrise is brighter, every conversation is more precious. There is a kind of joy that only comes when you stop pretending you are immortal. Amor Fati invites us to not just accept the end, but to see it as part of the design that makes life meaningful. A flower is beautiful because it blooms and dies. A moment is meaningful because it cannot last. If we were eternal, life would be dull, repetitive, and void of urgency. Seneca, in his letters, advised us not to see death as a thief, but as a companion who walks beside us always, reminding us to live wisely. To die well, he said, one must learn to live well first. In loving our fate, we love our fragility, our limits, and our transience. Death is not something that robs us of time. It gives our time value. When we no longer run from it, we begin to shape each day with intention. Death, through the eyes of Amor Fati, is not the enemy. It is the frame that makes the painting of life unforgettable. Final reflection. Amor Fati as freedom. What does it truly mean to be free? In a world that equates freedom with choice, control, and the power to shape every detail of life, the Stoic vision offers a radical alternative. Real freedom is not about bending the world to your will, but about aligning your will with the world. This is the heart of Amor Fati, the unconditional love for one's fate, the embrace of everything that happens, not with resentment or tolerance, but with deep affirmation. To love your fate is to release yourself from the torment of what if. It is to stop wishing for a life that isn't, and instead to say yes to the life that is. Most people suffer not from events themselves, but from their resistance to those events. They tighten up when life unfolds unpredictably. They feel betrayed when their plans unravel. But the Stoic, guided by the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, knows that fate does not owe us comfort. Life was never meant to match our desires. We were meant to grow into whatever life demands of us. Amor Fati is not weakness. It is profound strength. It takes tremendous inner discipline to look at misfortune and say, good, to fall and rise without bitterness, to watch a dream dissolve and find a greater lesson in its ashes. The Stoic does not merely endure suffering, they transform it. The obstacle becomes the path, and the wound becomes the teacher. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, what stands in the way becomes the way. This freedom is not loud. It is quiet, calm, and powerful. It does not need applause, it does not demand recognition, it simply exists in the space between action and acceptance. You do your best every day to act with wisdom and virtue, and when the outcome is out of your hands, you bow with grace, not because you are defeated, but because you are at peace. When you practice Amor Fati, you live without fear of change, because you no longer hinge your happiness on external circumstances. You are no longer a hostage of fortune. Whether today brings gain or loss, praise or blame, sunshine or storm, it is all yours, and you welcome it. Not because it is always easy, but because it is always necessary. To love one's fate is to live a life of courage. It is to trust the flow of events, to stand in the center of chaos and remain unshaken. And ultimately, it is to meet life and death, not with resistance, but with open arms. So ask yourself this: what would your life look like if you loved everything that has ever happened to you? What kind of person would you become? That is the promise of Amor Fati, not comfort, but clarity, not escape, but deep-rooted power, the freedom to be at one with life itself.